I'm Merlin D'Souza, the content producer at Sapphire Connect, and I'm extremely delighted to welcome you all to the Perspective Roundtable series focusing on securing your business and customers tackling online fraud risk, presented by Group IB. As we all know, how today's internet has become a hectic place with ample of different web technologies and services glued together as they help users to shop online, watch the newest movies, or stream the latest hits. But these services are also constantly threatened by attackers, and no company, no matter how big or small, are completely immune. We have gathered here today to understand how the digital environment has grown more complex for the BFSI sector as our world becomes increasingly connected, thus increasing the threat landscape and expanding the attack surface, giving attackers more targets from which to choose. Without taking any more of your time, I would like to introduce Mr. Shafique Dawood, Head of Sales and Business Development, Group IB, and request him to commence with a short introductory presentation. Over to you, Shafique.
Thank you very much. I will be sharing my screen in a short while. Hello, everyone. My name is Shafique. I'm not a stranger to this platform. I think I know some of you already for a while now. Today, I'm going to take just a very short period of time to help maybe give you guys some updates on the trends and understanding on managing online frauds, because this is a very close topic to my heart, given my background in anti-fraud companies and now with a global company such as Group IB. And I'm going to talk a little bit about real-time client-side digital identity protection, fraud prevention, in the understanding of how we can prevent fraud, how we can understand it better, how we can hopefully detect it better, and avoid having such issues on a organizational and even national level. In the last 6 months, we saw in Group IB, we have in Group IB several instances of where we protect our clients, and some of the instances can be in the range of about 90 to 100 million led in our teams. And we saw these percentages are based on us. We saw a lot of remote accesses, at least about 38% of it. We saw some existence of malware, not that much in my point of view as it should be. Web bots, which are prevalent, and also IP GPS based type of anomalies, when people use spoofing methods and stuff. And finally, in terms of an account space, an account takeover space, the multiplicity of accounts. I think everyone has been reading the papers, especially if you guys are aware of cybersecurity. There are huge, massive breaches in terms of a credentials perspective. And this is a very important element to take note of in terms of an initial access perspective. We see e-commerce fraud. Yeah, we see e-commerce fraud. We see even ransomware. We see all sorts of scams, even down to an anti-piracy, anti-counterfeit, anti-scam perspective. We see a lot of this happening throughout. And the theme since 2019 to 2020 and now is, I think, still ransomware. One of the popular types of frauds that we see, especially for e-commerce, would be, loyalty points, bonus miles. Not really that much now in the COVID environment because nobody's really flying. Everybody's airline miles are expiring, in fact. And you see credit card sniffing. You see credit card cash out, even betting manipulation in the gamification. Once you're at home doing a lot of work from home, you start fiddling on the computer. Next thing you know, you go onto online betting sites. This is what a lot of people do, especially in APAC. Account boosting in order to increase traffic rates, user credential breaches, user credential account, credential stuffing, and also the use of user account credentials as an entry point and going into privilege escalation prior to lateral movement, for example. We see another type of interesting trend, which is scraping. Scraping has been existing for a long time, but now we see scraping and spam attacks on even web forms for the competition. As you know, e-commerce is really kicking in, especially during this COVID period. And even the competitors are trying to get information against the other competitors. Some of the tools and techniques that we see are, the common bots, Bot evolution is science in itself. The old bots are still some of the basis of what we see today. Social engineering has come to a point where, I think most of you are getting phone calls, at every point of the day saying that, your bank account is having a problem. You need to change your password right now. And even call centers, types of environment, getting this kind of social engineering. JS snippers, it's not like it's making a comeback, but we need to look into the families of JS sniffers that are out there and understand its evolution in order to be able to detect it. Malware phishing, evidently it's been around, but like I said again, the point of this is how then can you prevent such things, especially when we talk about mailboxes on the cloud as opposed to on-premise types of environments. I don't have the exact statistics, but this is one of the most common manners of initial access. And if you are a follower of the dark web forum like I am, you'd be able to see every other day a posting on some fellow who's got breached, no matter how big the MNC is or even how small that they are. I was speaking a little bit about JS sniffers. We saw about, at least in terms of a trending perspective last year, we saw it's about 38 different families that are quite common and that we exfiltrated and understood. And at least 11 of these families are attacking countries such as Asia, especially those financial hubs, so to speak. And the main target are still the US. And in terms of a POS malware type of attack or threat vector, fines are no joke. And British Airways, it's been a while now, I think a couple of years now since British Airways breach. I had to cut my credit card because I used them once before. And they were slapped on with a very hefty fine. I don't know if this is the real exact figure because the one I knew was in pounds. And this was a huge one. Singapore also had a similar one with a healthcare industry, a healthcare ministry, or Statbot, and had $1 million fine. And you can ask JP Morgan as well, the amount of fines that, different banks are facing due to just this as the regulatory maturity kicks in. The cost of JS snippers in the underground market, tailored for you, especially these kind of concepts of JS sniffer as a service, is around between as cheap as 250 to about 5,000. And brute forcing onto the forms to create a ghosting effect, a very bot effect of multiple different types of people coming in at the same time, and thereby giving rise to potentially just business disruption. And they use a lot of things like bots, and they use a lot of things like cookies and even VPN proxies, reverse proxies. And the main primary goal is just to disrupt your business, to have the availabilities become a problem. I spoke about bonus and miles fraud. This applies across the board, be it loyalty points, be it all sorts of types of points. We see phishing, website, and even these bonus points because of social engineering or even based on credential stuffing, based on data leaks, right? They use this and they either use a bot along with it, and you'd have a lot of activity right there and getting a lot of disruption. The main problem here is what we want to focus on, the inability to understand the different devices, to understand the behavioral persona of those individuals that are coming in. And this is, in my point of view, is easily done if you have the right tools, and understand how different personas come in. Then you can handle even volume. You see a lot of these kind of types of compromised account sales in the dark web, like raid forums, xss.is, and almost on a daily basis, you'll see this kind of volume. Indonesia just had a huge breach of 279 million accounts from the Ministry of Health, BPJS. And that is amazing. 279 million accounts of people with every single form of data, personal private data, already pre-formatted in rows in an Excel sheet when you convert it from a CSV file. I mean, do you know how much damage one can use on that? And if we reverse the whole entire thing, you could like apply for multiple different SIM cards. You could sell this information to obfuscate yourself on many, many different areas. And this is something that's not dying down. In fact, I see huge increases in this. Scraping of media content. I was just having this conversation earlier with Mayuran on a little bit of this, and you have different tools to do this, like Python, like Golang, and because of Scrapey framework. And I tell you, even young children can write code in Python and do this. Why would you want to scrap data? This is in Russian. It stands for television, Samsung television. Now, why would I want to do this? I want to scrape the information. I can take that information, consolidate the information, and look at this price right here. And I can use that information to modify my price point. I could use this information against my competitor across the board and, do a lot of bad stuff. And this part borders on regulation versus the owner of that website taking the relevant steps to prevent the ability to scrape, or make it more difficult to scrape using such tools and such frameworks. Betting online, this is another way of syndication. If I had a bunch of friends and I entered a casino, right, at different timings, but we all know each other and we go to the blackjack table, we could manipulate the system in order to have a better chance of winning, and then we'd share the load. So this is on digital landscape perspective, similar types of issues of such a nature. And the idea here is making multiple platforms using software, keep on changing your proxies and IPs. And then after that, some of these activities like we know of can be done on a browser level. Account boosting, clickbait are just basically boosting. Every single one wants a like these days. We are becoming a culture of people who are so addicted to having your posts, having likes and stuff. On the flip side, this is more towards being ranked, but manually or by bots, and having that ideology of using such things to actually cheat people. The ranking perspective, the reputational perspective. Monetization, we see tons of cards on a daily basis from almost every bank that has credit cards. We see tons of account compromises, and this is ridiculously high. Last time around, last count was somewhere in the region of 13 million. That's what we saw on carding forums based on simple password sniffing like Azeroth, based on like Brian's Club, different kind of card dumping sites. And they are monetizing this by selling it at a couple of dollars for every credit card. Depends on which country you come from. If you're from India, the credit card range could be around $350. If you're from Malaysia, it could be $120. If you're from Singapore, different kind of ranges depending on the card type. This is, again, an overhead for the bank. A big problem when it comes to account takeovers in the credit card space. So in my last slide, I would like to summarize in this manner. You got the old way of detecting fraud, and then you have new companies popping out. Everyone wants to be an anti-fraud company these days, build a startup, and so we need to understand the evolution. In the past, it's very signature based, detection. How they actually understood malware is something to be thought of as well. And it's only about known malware. The level of dynamism of this malware and its evolution is not taken into account in a real-time perspective. It's more single channel support. That's how it was designed. And now we're moving into more omni-channel environments. There are no real true prevention capabilities. I mean, stopping it at the point of transaction, pre-authentication perspective. Now we're looking at it in a more hunting kind of manner. It's a convergence. IT, security, fraud department, they need to get together because of the nature of such TTPs, threats, techniques, and procedures of these threat attackers. You need global visibility in order to understand the latest threats. You need cross-scripting capability detection. You need cross-customer understanding of personas. And it is not just about device fingerprinting per se. It is about understanding the behavior-based analytics on the individuals that are using it, the vertical that you are protecting. Transactional, sessional. What can you garner from that? What are the limitations, right? For me, per se, I'm at the front line of defense and the last line of defense. And that's where session forensics can come into a huge amount of play in saving you money, in getting ahead of the curve, in also maintaining your SLAs to customer experience perspective. And, what is the point of continuous defense if we don't start hunting these criminals down? So it's all about unveiling the different threat actors, their infrastructure, transposing it against your domains to understand if you have any form of remote accesses currently undergoing, and detecting it early and preemption. And that's what I believe we all need to do in a consortium-based perspective of FSI and even in other verticals. With that, I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Shafique, for the quick introduction on Group IB. It's now time for the panel discussion on the topic securing your business and customers, tackling online fraud risk. For this, I would like to introduce our moderator for this discussion, Mr. Mayuran Palanisamy, who's a director in KPMG, and some of our esteemed speakers who have joined in right now with us. Mr. Anil PM, he's the head legal and compliance, Bajaj Allianz Life. Babitha PB, CISO, CSB Bank. Parshuram, Dabholkar, CISO, HDFC Securities. Prasanna Lohar, Head Technology, Innovation and Architecture, DCB Bank. Shafique Dawood, Head of Sales and Business Development, Group IB. Sunil Lohani, CISO, Nainital Bank. We are waiting for the other members who shall be joining in shortly. Over to you, Mayuran. You can take over right now.
Sure, Marlene. Thank you so much, and welcome to all my panelists. Thank you so much for joining. It's a delight to kind of moderate this panel. I know that if I put together all the experience of the people in the screen, it could be more than 150, 200 easily. Right? So that's the kind of people we have on the call. Thank you so much for joining in. So the way I would like to kind of move forward is that since we have a huge number of people, we will have a basic general question around some of your thoughts. We go across and get your perspectives in a very short and sweet manner. Then we will deep dive into some of these areas. Even for the areas I have structured in a slightly thematic way, right? Rather than asking you questions, we know some of the thematic issues we have, right? In terms of cyber evolution, how the technology is evolving, the customer trust part, right? Cyber insurance, these kind of things. So feel free to pitch in and talk about it. I'm not going to targetly ask any questions to anybody because we have a fair number of people here. Just probably you can, I'm sure there's a mechanism in which you can say that you're keen to kind of contribute with an answer, right? Hands up or whatever it is. So we can use that and we can kind of move forward in that. Right, just to kind of give a little bit of context to the kind of topic. Shafique, thank you so much for the detailed presentation. I think that's extremely useful. I mean, that is, as you said, it's not definitely confined to the BFSI. I mean, it has a larger impact across all the sectors, right? So while we all going through a pandemic, I mean, initially it's going to be, we thought okay, it's going to be only one pandemic or one cycle of pandemic, but no, we are going through a second one. And there is also speculation on the third one, which is yet to come. So one of the things which you have seen is that many organizations, to the positive side, became more digital, right? Especially some of the sectors, while in the consumer markets, rather than B2B, B2C, they started going to D2C. Directly, they started selling products to the consumers rather than going through any channels in between, right? And we also saw some of the sectors, like especially the banking, we're seeing a little bit of growth during this difficult time as well because of the online transactions, the UPI, especially in India. There's a statistics which says that the UPI transactions went up by 116%, right, compared to the first quarter of last year to this year, right? And also there's been a lot of investments coming into the financial sector, PE fund investments, which are while good things. On the downside, we also saw that the number of frauds, right, number of cyber issues are going up significantly. Right. Earlier, these were only for the large financial institutions, but I think now it is kind of become a volume game, right? I mean, the attackers are trying to gain as much as possible by kind of blindly attacking every single opportunity, right? So this is a little bit of context before we kind of jump into the topic. So just to set the context or kind of have a base question, right? I'm sure that most of you role in the security function of the respective banks you're working for or the institutions you're working for. So while the pandemic came in, initially, I think there's been traditional way of working, and suddenly you have to move to a new way of working, right? I mean, everybody was so much gung about saying that, okay, the new way of working, there's so much of excitement, so on and so forth. So while transitioning this, right, I mean, many a times, security was one of the bottlenecks, right? I mean, let it be working from home or becoming more digital, whatever it is, right? So I'd like to hear from you in terms of what are the bottlenecks you saw when the transition started happening, and how did you overcome in your business, right? I'm sure this is very a key lesson, and good to hear stuff for many of the people who are going to kind of see this video eventually. So that's a question, open question. Anybody who wants to?
Yeah, this is Parshuram here.
Hi, Parshuram.
Yeah, hi, from Securitie. So hope you are doing well, and all others are also doing well. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So this question you asked is how we did. So earlier, like work from home was not realistic. So if you had said to many companies during that time, at least I think 50% of companies, excluding IT, they could have said that it is not possible. But now it has become norm. Okay, now it is, everybody knows that work from home is possible, and we can work and we live with work from home. So we also had challenges like solutions and all. So we did a survey how many customers, I mean, how many employees are ready to work, how many are coming to office and all, what is the total capacity required and all. We were not ready. Okay, we were not ready, and we also thought it is actually impossible. But no, but everybody, people are using WhatsApp and all are technical, and they can easily transit to a work from home model. So we got a solution. We did a vendor analysis, did POC, and started with the solution. So say it was not a single solution would do. So you would require some app to do some engagement with I mean middle level of employees, and some work from home solution. Then there would be, so when we talk about work from home solution, we also require a good authentication, at least two-factor authentication to work with. So it was some delay, but after 1 or 2 months we were able to do it. So every business will be different, and everybody has to study its environment and its employees. Okay, and then you can, it is possible. It will take some time, but it is possible. It will be a little challenging when you do it for first time, but later on, like 2 or 3 months, it will become very easy. Yeah, so and it will become norm in future maybe. Yeah.
Thanks, Parshuram. I think that's the reality, right? I mean,
Yeah.
initially there was a lot of hesitance and concern about all this stuff, especially from the security side, right? Because technically, whatever you are trying to protect within the environment, now it has gone out, right? I mean, all your laptops, in half of the infrastructure is outside your perimeter now, right? So your threat is completely different, right? Thanks, Parshuram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
It's Babitha here.
Yes, Babitha. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So I just want to add some of the thoughts put by Parshuram. In our case also, as you know, in banks, work from home thing is there, especially in India. So when suddenly lockdown and all came, we were a bit reluctant, but there was, as Parshuram said, it was given to IT people earlier to attend the calls and all in the night, you had to do some BCP kind of things and all. We are given that, but it was not in a large scale like what we are doing right now. So immediately, as you said, because of the digitalization, which was already there in the bank, because our regulators has already implemented a lot of security features, has come up with a cybersecurity framework, which helped us to build the security posture of the banks. We were readily able to procure a dedicated solution, VPN solution for our employees, and we have put necessary security measures in that, like what Parshuram has mentioned, like the two-factor authentication and data leakage. Also, we have taken care, like not allowed to copy anything or download anything to the personal PC, and even the security posture, which is the biggest concern for all the CISOs. Like because of the need of the time, we may not be able to give to only those people who are having bank's laptop. At times, we have to extend it to the personal laptops also. BYOD So there also, because the tools were already available with us, we have put EDR and cloud-based EDR solutions and semantic antivirus solutions and all of that, which helped us to know the security posture of the device which we are getting connected remotely also. So and that has helped us has given us a little bit of confidence, like this assets which are connecting to our infrastructure is secured or not. So these are with the evolution of time and the need, we have to come up with new technological solutions, and in the market now there are a lot of solutions also available. Only thing, we have to choose the right and have to configure it and ensure that all the security features are in place rather than just implementing it.
Maybe unless Anil wants to say something, I'd like to just add on and write off what Babitha just mentioned with regards to working from home. I really do not like working from home. I work more from home than I do in the office, it seems, because I do back-to-backs. I think psychologically we need to manage our staff and how they feel about working from home. I think the other thing is when we talk about VPNs, right, coming on a cybersecurity perspective, you have seen as well, you need to really keep track of your common vulnerabilities and exploits. If you see Telerik, Secure, Pulse, VPNs got hit many a time, and many big MNCs, that became an entry point of threat actors. That was what I wanted to say. Anil, maybe over to you or something.
Yeah, so yes. I think I'm one of the lawyers in this non-lawyer panel, all technologists, so pardon my ignorance on technology. But in terms of risk mitigation, I think I would rather start with this whole issue about, imagine this whole pandemic were to hit us 10 years back. It is technology which has saved us. This digital calls that we have, work from home, 10 years back, no way this would have been possible. It would have been an entirely different scenario altogether. So it is a savior technology, but as the other panelists also said, it comes with its own challenges. So for us, again, insurance, a very old business where, we never thought that work from home is ever possible. The whole concept has been turned on its head. We had to move en masse, and it is not just the fact that we never thought we would work from home meant a lot of employees didn't even have laptops. So all of them were desktops. Now, how do we get it? Now, everybody was searching for laptops. So shortage in the market. So we had to rent some. And again, it was like finding gold at that point of time. And then call center is a big setup for us. So we had to have the dialers, which could not work other than from the call center. So we literally moved the desk, the physical equipment with dialers to employees' homes. So by the time we got something more smaller, which could be fitted on somebody's laptop, it took a few months, but then till such time we had to manage. Add to this some of the regulatory restrictions in terms of especially insurance companies, a lot of investments that we do. We need to have a recording mechanism. Trades have to be done only through certain machines. So all those were there. So how do we meet regulatory requirements while ensuring employee safety and the availability of office? Because lockdown means lockdown, you can't step outside your house, but keep business lights on. So these were challenges. We did what we did, and thanks to our IT team, I think we were able to do it very well. But on everybody's back of their mind, the worry remains that how vulnerable that we are. As people said, we are working outside our infrastructure. While you have VPN, the whole world, is now on a platter to hackers. We have seen what has happened in Colonial Pipeline. These things are now increasing. So that's a worry which you always have. And we do, while we have the ISO 27001 certification and all of it, we make sure that we do these audits and make sure that, what we have continues to remain, strong. But back of our mind, we are always awaiting when, you hear that, oh, you've been hacked, or touch wood does not happen so far. But this is definitely, I'm sure, would be giving sleepless nights to the CISOs.
Thanks, Anil. Thanks for those inputs. So in fact, I picked up a few points from each one of you. I'll come back to you with questions on that. If somebody else was trying to talk.
Yes. Hello. Hello.
Sunil, yes, go ahead, Sunil.
Yes, I'm audible.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. Just Babitha ma'am already say, all bank almost face same types of issues, cybersecurity or risk or these things. So our bank we also face such as so during the COVID we review earlier we review on monthly or quarterly basis, but after the COVID pandemic because the risk was there, so we review on weekly basis, especially VPN connectivity, and we enforce all the policies limitation on uploading, downloading, or the requirement. But apart from that, during the after the COVID in pandemic, a lot of digital transactions increased. At the same time, in numbers of online fraud also increased. So that we think and we go for the other solution like cryptography identification platform, so that we can save our online fraud transaction. So this solution is under the pilot project. Hopefully, this will be implemented within 3 or 4 months.
Sure. Thanks for your inputs. Anybody else has any other views on this particular thing before we jump into specific areas? Okay, so I'd like to pick up one point which, I mean, Anil, definitely I have a question for you. So I know that you're a lawyer and I need to have something which is in line to your side. I definitely have, and I've got it for the time being. So, Babitha, I'm coming to your point. There are 2 points which I picked from you. One is that the technology around cyber, right? So if you see, I mean, initially you're talking about identity and access management, PAM, PIM solutions. Now, slowly this is moving towards the passwordless authentication, zero trust, so on and so forth, right? So I know that many of the global banks are already in the journey of implementing this, right? How is this happening in the Indian bank scenario? I mean, this is open question. Anybody can pitch in based on their views, etc. But happy to hear this thing.
Yeah, I will take it first. We do have a PIM PAM solution in place. But if you are asking me whether we have extended till the VPN or work from home kind of scenario, not yet. But still, we have the solution in place with which we can track them and monitor the activities carried by the users, and even the privilege level, and even by two-factor authentications like OTP and all for the login. All these features is definitely available with that. But as you mentioned, full-fledged, I don't think we are yet to reach to a certain level.
Sure. Any other views on that? Or Shafique, I'll request you to pitch in from a global perspective, how banks are evolving in this space.
Okay, global, not just India, right?
Yeah. That's I want to get a different flavor from you since you're in Singapore.
So,
right, I thought, yeah.
There's several things to take into account. Number one is we need to understand what type of banking arena that we're talking about, because again, it's very siloed. Again, IT infrastructure versus fraud per se. If I were to make certain statements right now, it would be like last year alone, we saw on one single Joker Stash forum, it was 544,000 cards across all of Indian banks, right? And that sounds like old news because it's last year, but it is the element of sometimes we think we are well protected because we have multi-factor authentication, right? We have OTP, for instance, but the evolution is such that even OTP can be hijacked these days. I can show you how. Air gapping is not like what it is in the past, and aside from that, you have multi-factor authentications when you do, how you do it, that makes you be able to be vulnerable, right? This continuous understanding of the threat landscape with threat intelligence is what you need. You need the team, you need to know how to action on the threat intelligence that you receive. That's one thing. A global landscape perspective, maturity is also governed by the demographic, by also the regulator, right? Whether they enforce it or not, right? You got different types of regulators. Like in Singapore, you have MAS, you got the OJK. In Indonesia, you got the SBB. In Vietnam, you've got the Bank of Thailand doing all sorts of regulation. But the problem here is that the regulation always does not keep up in tandem with the type of threat actors and their methodologies. Aside from that, is also different types of laws, different layers of laws like GDPR, PSD2, open banking. Some of these laws, when you look at it in its individuality, it has its merits. But when you start putting them together and then applying it in a particular country, that's when you see it gets a bit convoluted and how much a change you need to make unto your IT infrastructure, processes, systems, in order to avoid hefty fines. That's where I'm coming from. That this is still something that I believe. That's why we need to get together in a consortium perspective, not only on a country level, but also on a territorial level, like APAC, and stuff like that, in order to share across different channels so that everybody is forewarned, on specific types of attacks. These things are being done by FSISAC, for example. Now we have OTISAC as well. But as far as I can tell, the same people who are getting these feeds are still getting attacked. So it's about consuming these feeds and making it actionable, and also looking at it not just across the lines of businesses, but also on a vertical perspective, to advise the chief risk officer, to advise the chief CISO officer, to put it on a management approval perspective on how to react fast enough to these attacks. I think that's what I would be able to contribute right here.
Thanks, Shafique. I think you kind of brought up the point which I wanted to kind of pick up from Babitha as well, the regulator's role, right? So end of the day, we all believe that regulatory system plays a significant role in the cyber maturity in a particular country. I mean, I was a little surprised when you say that. I mean, at least sitting in India, we assume that MAS and HKMA all kind of quite advanced regulators, and they push a lot of stuff for the banks to kind of focus on from cyber point of view. On the other side, I mean, even in India, there's been a lot of focus in the cyber regulations, right? From the industry specific ones, from RBI and IRDA, so on and so forth. So this is a general question to everybody. I mean, how much do you think this is taking the banks and the insurance companies in the direction of cyber maturity? Or is there anything which the respective regulator need to focus better on? Right, but I can relate to you, Shafique, that the time lag is always there, right? I think at times the attackers are much faster than the regulators and the security professionals, right? Leaving that aside, is there anything else we should expect from the regulators? It's an open question. Anybody who's willing to respond, probably pitch in here.
Parshuram here. See, we have seen what RBI is getting daily. So RBI has already reached some maturity level for banking industry, but for stock brokers, SEBI is taking care. So if you have noticed, SEBI has done quite a big thing from 2018 onwards, especially after cyber security circular that was born in December 2018. Okay, so I think it is considerable done, especially pushed by Indian government and our regulators. Okay, so both RBI, SEBI, and IRDA, all they are actually contributing very well. If you see why banks have so strict control right now, it is because of RBI. It is a huge role. We can't deny that. And there is a pain sometimes because of audit regulation. I mean, specific technology required. They said you need to encrypt something. You require two-factor authentication. And you have to disclose whatever has been. I mean, breach has happened. So it is actually will protect consumer also, and it will also protect banks, then stockbroker, Indian industries overall, be it by IRDA, insurance, or stockbroking firm. Because if there is no regulation, then there would be a little bit laid back thought. Okay, I mean, nobody will put some money this much into technologies and will try to prevent such frauds or bring the cybersecurity level to next. Okay, so I think it is very much required, and they play a big role time to time. But they also have to understand that something might not be easy. It would take some time, so they have to give some time and also get laced with the companies, be it bank or broking firm or insurance company, they also have to think so that little bit like they're not getting that much gelled up with the actual companies. So that thing is like they deliver one regulation and they say let you do it. So I think they should also gel up with the industries so that they have better perspective what is happening at next, and they will get some realistic goals.
Got it. Thanks,
Yeah.
Parshuram.
Yeah.
So I think we haven't heard from many of us in the screen. So probably I will call a few names. If you have any views, you can share on that. Prasanna, do you have anything to share on this point?
Yeah. So I thought somebody will call up the name, then only we have to participate.
No, that's right, because I know that there
Yeah.
are too many people. So I thought, okay, let's keep it open. Who wants to contribute?
Okay.
Then I realized, okay, everybody should talk, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good forum, na? So I think I can see some of our friends also out here. So greetings to everyone. So I think coming back, this is very important, right? How the role of regulators coming into picture, right? Say, I think those were the days we had less of regulation when we were in a bricks and mortar kind of a model, going to the branches and do give some paper, and again that paper take out some paper currency, or do some of the operations like account opening and so on. Now that has evolved, right? That has gone from that bricks and mortar to now to the internet banking and the mobile banking. So what does it mean? It means that we are building new technologies, and to manage that new technologies, we are now bringing other security practices or new infrastructure things and so on. And as we are evolving from at our infra end, wherein we used to manage at a managed data center, so now things are going on a cloud, right? So the changes are everywhere, and maybe in future your business model will change. Maybe today we are operating on your bank's mobile banking. Tomorrow you want to do banking anywhere, so through partners like what we do for payments on Google Pays or Phone Pays. Similarly, I think we are doing it from Bank Bazaar or Insurance Bazaar. So tomorrow's banking and insurance will be aggregation model. So not only one party will be involved for that customer, but a multi-party network will be involved. What is it? You are evolving the periphery of the whole application services which we are providing to the customer. So we talk of a lot of dreams like zero trust security, or continuous or security operations control, or we talk about to have a web application firewalls or many more controls, or these days we talk about AI ML to be introduced into fraud risk tools. So I think this will keep on evolving. Okay, the role of regulator is that to see what is happening outside of banking, non-banking, and evolve with those controls. Say example, in 2021 February, RBI come up with a new regulatory guideline. And if you study those guidelines, it will strengthen mobile banking, internet banking, cards, domain, or API. When they have spoken about API, how you are opening your APIs also to the fintech companies. That's what also they have seen. They have asked for how based upon the frauds which has happened in UPI. They have asked some of the controls like how do we really see the request is coming from some fraudulent collector, or like this kind of learnings which we have, and through these entities like NPCI, IDRBT, we keep on getting these guidelines. And as one of our friends said that earlier we used to review monthly or bi-monthly these IT security stuff and all, but this has happened now almost daily basis, right? So any application going live, security officers are taking that opportunities. They are not allowing those applications to go live until this recent guideline of February also should be made, right? Say example, some applications we should have already on live, right? And just because there are some new controls are introduced 2 months before, CISOs are requesting app team or infra team, this should be made. So I think that's a additional responsibilities coming on a CISO apart from managing their day-to-day monitoring. But also while we are moving things on to the managed data center, they are responsible for that, right? Because banks, insurance companies are always living in a glass houses, right? And customers or this fraudster can come up anytime. So I think I think what we have seen apart from your regular VAPTs of applications or audits, a lot of audits are increased for IT security, and it's a complete burden on ongoing operations at day apps and so on. So I think we had to create a strategy while we are operating on current operational cybersecurity, how an organization can become not only digital first or AI first, right? but how they can become cyber first, like how they really safeguard their peripheries, either with a better controls at a infra level, even at a applications levels. And it is a like continuous exercise. We can't say that we are now matured enough and let's stop doing this. I think it's evolving, and the regulator does play a major role. Say at a bank level, organization level, you might have a better architects and better infra guys, and based upon their intelligence, they will adopt OWSP or a PCI DSS guideline, and accordingly they will implement. But these guidelines comes and assess how you have implemented against those standards, PCI DSS or PADSS, or based upon type of industry what we have. So it's very important role regulators play in a nutshell.
Thanks.
Last point I would like to add here, what we are doing today with the web applications, mobile applications, right? Tomorrow with the 5G IoT, your operating models will be different. What does it mean? It means that you have to look at different ways of safeguarding our periphery, not only organizational periphery, but complete network periphery of that application, where multiple devices, multiple machines, multiple human beings will do transaction from some other's network. So I think that's how I think regulators should think from here onwards, considering futurist aspect. As you said that attackers are always ahead of the curve. So we also should think what are those future attacks will come up, and we should be ready. That's the opportunity for service providers to be there. Yeah, thanks.
Sure. Thanks, Prasanna, for that elaborate answer for that question.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next question. This is primarily around, I mean, while we are talking about the cyber incidents have gone up, right, in the last few months because of the pandemic, and we are talking about the increased number of online frauds, right? So what is some of the banks are kind of, how are they handling it at this point in time? Right. So probably, Nishant, do you want to quickly share your perspective in terms of how this is being handled? I mean, I don't think we need to restrict ourselves to banks alone, because this is applicable to any business today, right? So probably happy to get your views on that. So, I mean, in India, we are looking forward for the data privacy bill, right? The bill is there. It's going to get enacted as a law, right? So, I mean, some of the controls or expectation we have from that is to kind of localize certain set of data. While the data is not they have not mentioned what data is that. I mean, they have categorically told it's going to be certain category of data, right? So how do you think the banks are prepared? I know that some of the public sector banks have already started working on it. And this is going to be applicable to insurance companies and any organization who is processing personal information, right? So how do you think we should look at preparing, and what are the challenges you are envisaging in this journey?
Yeah, so I mean, we're not holding our breath in terms of when the enactment will come, because it's been a while now, a long while. Now it has been again referred to a standing committee, and there is discussion about anonymized, non-anonymized data being included or not. So the discussion continues, but hope it sees the light of the day. But in terms of preparedness, I think the banking and insurance sector are a step ahead in terms of localization, because already there is mandates from the regulator in terms of the data being maintained locally, with restrictions on they being sent outside India. So that part is already covered.
Yeah.
What we are more concerned are in terms of the access to personal information, how it is to be used, to what extent consent is to be obtained, how long can we retain consent, and the fact that there is so many offerings which now happen. So there are questions in terms of each offering. Do I have to go get a specific consent? Can be broad enough? So this would take time as to how it would evolve. While we can look at GDPR in terms of giving us direction as to how the external regulators have looked at it, but there is always an Indian context to it, and we will only know once the law is enacted and how, if at all, there is a challenge to it and courts have ruled. So there is some more way to go ahead. But having said that, everybody is taking this seriously, because there was never any law which said that, while it has been there in bits and pieces in terms of the penalty which can be imposed, which are fairly significant. In case of data breach, in case of, you not informing the customer as to what you're using the data for. So towards that end, better controls are being built in terms of seeing who can access the data, for what purpose it can be used, and again, protecting them from external intrusion like hackers and all. So that is where I think the larger focus is. but still a lot of questions remain unanswered where we are looking at how it is being implemented elsewhere.
Sure. Thank you. Anybody would like to add to that point?
Yeah, Babitha here again.
Hi, Babitha,
yeah. Here, 1, 2, 3 points I would like to share. Is like as Shafique has quoted about the Joker stack and all, which is I just want to quote it just for the example. Here, what is coming is like it is not because a bank is breached or some data has been stolen from the bank, because as per the regulatory guidelines and the enough infrastructure is in place, wherein we are safeguarding the systems which is within the organization. Now, this GDPR, this data privacy bill, when it comes into existence, the main problem will be with the party vendors or the payment aggregators who will be helping us. Most of these data breaches has happened from their end only. So now it becomes a responsibility of the bank to ensure that whether their infrastructure is capable enough in holding it, which is going to be a very tedious job because we don't know. And many a times, even if in the contracts, we are telling that we should be allowed to audit their premises and ensure that many a times it is not possible. And we are entrusting a third-party auditor, and we are believing on the audit comments put by the auditor. Based on that, we are taking action. So once the breach comes, ultimately the responsibility will be in the bank, because we are the data has been transferred from the bank. So the data collector, data protector roles and all, I think we are going to have a very difficult time once the bill comes into existence.
Yeah, Nishad, I think you touched upon the right point because we have to wait and see how the enforcement is going to take place, right? It is not about having the policies, procedures, frameworks, etc. I think if we leave out in the enforcement, that could be a challenge. Puneet, hi, I can see you. Thanks for joining in.
Yes, hi. Good evening to all.
Very good
Sorry
evening.
for the late other
No
commitments.
No worries. I've been parking a question for you. Good that you joined in. Okay. So, I mean, while we spoke about most of the challenges in the space of cyber, right? I mean, what are the banks are going through, and not only banks, I mean, across various sectors. So one of the key evolution or change happening is in the space of cyber insurance, right? So many organizations have already kind of embarked in the journey of leveraging on cyber insurance to protect themselves from the cyber attacks, so on and so forth. But how do you think this is currently shaping up in India? Because this is fairly a new, I mean, I will say maybe in the last 5 years is when we are talking about cyber insurance as an option. And many organizations are still not convinced to go for that. But happy to get your views. I know that you have both financial sector experience plus the insurance, right? So I thought you'd be the right person to answer the question.
Thank you for, first of all, to give me that opportunity. And good evening to all my viewers and my co-panelists out here. So cyber insurance, I would not say it's 5 years. The evolution in India is as early as like 3 years old now. Very much. Reason being, first thing of itself is 3 years, people where, you know, the apart or, you know, the data breach which is getting happened, or probably, you know, there is a declaration which comes from the Privacy Act, which probably every website, irrespective whether they are financial services or not, they should give a declaration under the Privacy Act that, like, you know, the privacy should be there, the policy should be there, the data policy should be there as a part of the financial services regulatory requirements. Coming home, you know, even if there is a data breach which happens, there is like a 24 hours window where, you know, the customers where the data breach has happened, or the organization which have suffered, they have to make a mandatory declaration for the data breaches that is happening. So all this is in terms of an insurance that our digital assets, basically what we talk about, the digital inventories from end to end should be covered in terms of customers' reputation, you know, in terms of, you know, how the customers are being, you know, earmarked, the encryption standards, the PII data, how that is being handled. Before, like, you know, you want to take it up, either it is in the banking space, you are doing it on the cloud, or you're doing an on-premise kind of a scenario, the localization, the data localization in the home country, and then probably, within the jurisdiction of the home country, the data allowing not happening outside the country, the data center where you want to do a co-location or you're hosting those clouds. So those also have to be mandatorily within the home country. So these are certain, you can say the steps that have been taken very, very aggressively by the, you can say the information technology or the cybersecurity acts and all that stuff, which is getting, you can say, opined, and it is getting its existence and acceptance because of the various reasons, become that it's not that we have to be very reactive, rather we have to be very proactive. And giving the decision of the pandemic situation for last 2 years, almost like 1.5 years, until how long it is very unpredictable. People working from home, flexibility of working from anywhere, giving a BYOD concept, people moving out of the base locations at that point of time where they could not come to a normalcy, right? And they were basically getting hooked onto the corporate networks and, the VPNs or, two-factor authentications, data getting affected, getting at rest, at motion and all that stuff, moving from one place to another, and all this digital inventories you're talking about, onboarding process, offline and online space where end-to-end user journeys are being captured. The claim settlement happens. If I take about insurance space, financial services and online lending spaces there, where you can have the KYC all mandated, video KYC is already there, or you can say that many things are being introduced, and it gives a convenience to the customers that, like, sitting at their home, we can enable, and, disbursement is there through NEFT and ECS. So the entire customer journey is talking about an online space, whether you do it in the assisted form or you do it in a self-service form. So this all needs to be covered under cyber assurance. And there is an effective need that all, apart from the regulatory requirement, which comes from the financial services perspective or regulatory perspective, people have to take into account that cyber insurance is a must. You cannot do away with it. So that is one thing which I say that it is a must. Now, talking about in the insurance space, where we say that cyber insurance is being given or as an offered as a, as a offering in terms of, getting many people getting hooked that, please insure us against cyber insurance. So those people who are offering this as a space, there is a need of the hour that industry should get geared up, where there should be a skill set availability in terms of people or the people who get insured for such kind of insurance. And the moment, very unfortunate, if they get breached, then how are the claim settlement being taken care in these companies? So there is a need where a skill set availability in how to manage in terms of claim settlement comes. And, we should be going back with the historical data. We should, have a cyber, FIR being lodged in the, cyber crime cell, and how this end-to-end effectiveness should come. I think so. There are certain skill set available in terms of certain advocates. I do not want to name them, but they're doing a very good work. But I think so if it is cascaded down to the people, into the general public as an awareness to settlement and all that stuff, that will definitely make a lot of difference. Cyber bullying, cyber insurance for the kid, even for the senior citizens, they are on social media and all that stuff. Whom are they talking? All these things comes as an awareness. So this are certain steps which has to be given as a part of the publicly, as a mandate. It has to be taken up very, very aggressively at a consolidation at the regulatory level, irrespective whatever domain, whether it is TRI or it is SEBI or it is RBI. It has to be a consolidation where effectively and collectively one has to move, and there should not be any compromises. The way West does it, similar those things can be replicated as a practice in India.
Sure. Thanks, Puneet. Thanks for those wonderful points. In fact, you touched upon a very interesting point of skill set, right? Not only from insurance point of view, even from the overall cyber point of view, I think there is a long way to go from India point of view. So considering the time, I don't think we can pick up that as a question and get your views. Apologies for that from each one of you. I think it was a very good discussion. Thanks for sharing your views. Only thing which I felt is constrained is the time, right? Otherwise, I think we could have had longer chat on all these points, and this is a I mean, there is plenty to talk in this area, to be honest. Thank you so much for being wonderful panelists and sharing your views, and looking forward to connect with you all sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayuran, and the other panelists for the interesting and thought-provoking discussion. I would like to call upon Andrew from Group IB for a quick, short closing presentation. Over to you, Andrew.
Right. Yeah, I'm here. So yeah, hello everyone. Just 1 second till I share my screen right here. So I heard a lot of good talk actually regarding the cybersecurity, hardening the posture in cyber to be able actually to counteract the nowadays threats, the nowadays problems and so on. But actually the one part that is always should be in our attention is the user experience and the user facing fraud. So for example, the shift that actually came from the digitalization part is that at the time the user accessing your banking application, he actually might think about that I want to transfer the money, for example, for one time. So I will just use my login information, will run the password. And so before that, like times before, you could only see like this transaction that happened. You can see who actually created this transaction, where it was sent to, and so on. But nowadays, there is a lot of different kinds of fraud that actually exist and happens. For example, your customer might want to install the update for Adobe Flash Player, for example, that is looking like this. Or he might be forced to install the TeamViewer application, for example, for the remote access from the security of the bank team and so on. And actually, after these actions that they might perform on their devices, which you can't control, they will themselves provide the access to the hackers, provide the access to their devices, to their most deepest and most sensitive information that they have. So at the same time, when they will get back to you, to your banking application, will try to make additional transaction. Will you know about this? Will you know about that their devices is infected? Maybe they have not only the TeamViewer session, but actually the call from a fraudster who is trying to get this information from him, like the OTP code or anything like this. So this calls, these actions, or the actions performed by the malware can be actually automated. So all this transactions part or the OTP code hijacking can actually happens in real time, in real life. So how it looks when we are talking about the real-time fraud prevention is that we're looking at all the signs what actually this user has inside his device. So not only that that scoring regarding his actions, but actually IP addresses that he uses, whether it is the self-hosted VPN service or not. Maybe it's the open proxy that the fraudster is using. Maybe there is the active remote access tool, as was said before, or mobile banking Trojan that can actually attack your own banking sphere. The most important part here is not that you need or the only thing you need is to be able to detect something. Yeah, the most important part is that the fraud is happening not against one bank, but against many of them. So the fraudsters will be attacking, after attacking one bank or any institution, they will come back to another with using the same techniques, the same tools that they have. So by accessing the same, or by using the same device and accessing another application of another bank, for example. So you see the fraud, you see it happens, and what can you do with this? So you can mark this device as a fraudulent, for example, leave the comment that this has a Trojan inside it, and then what else? So after marching this device, you need to transfer this information to other consortium, to other players in this financial institutions. For example, by knowing that this device is already marked as a fraudulent, or maybe the fraudulent person is operating with this, you can actually be proactive in the manner of understanding whether to provide the access to your account or to your services to a fraudulent device or not. So in this scenario, for example, one device or one application from one bank was marked as the malicious. And in the same manner, it will be then transferred to another application. So another bank will also know about the fraudulent device that is appeared on his premises. Even with storing information on premises, as a lot of talks were about the data sovereignty and data regulation, it's also possible to actually have this visibility, not only from within your infrastructure, but actually globally, like how many fraudulent devices are attacking right now the financial sector, which tools they use, what are the Trojans that they elevate and leverage in their attacks. So all this information can actually help you and your users to not to lose the money and be actually cyber resilient, let's say. So I believe this is the pretty short but fruitful thought to put in your mind, so to think about it. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity again. Thank you all for your time, and yeah, have a great day.
Thank you for that, Andrew. I just want to add on a little bit based on what Andrew just presented. Kind of like actually fits a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. And I think Judith said it best earlier on. I think she covered almost everything in terms of a regulatory standpoint, data privacy standpoint, and across multiple vertical standpoint. It is something that is a worrisome. I'm a pessimist before I'm an optimist. And whilst all of you have said things that are pretty much right, I think there are always ways to look at it in a different perspective. You know, we have been one of the few who managed to quickly convert from GDPR to having an authority like PDPC in Singapore. And in the end of the day, it's still, even now, it's still on an infancy stage, trying to keep up with the threat landscape and the threat actors, you know. So I think today's session was really amazing, that we get a lot of fantastic people in the right industry. I kind of look forward to potentially speaking to each and every one of you to learn more, especially Babitha as well, and also Punit, Sunil, Anil, on what other things that we can discuss about in the near future. The only problem is time right now.
Not a problem. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for your wonderful time and for the wonderful discussion. Have a lovely evening. Goodbye.